This is the Chester County Real Estate Podcast, bringing you the info you need to make your next move a great one. This show is brought to you by REMAX Ace Realty. For show notes and links, go to acerealtypa.com/podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Chester County Real Estate Podcast. This is the show that gives you the information you need to make your next move a great one. I'm your host, Sean Dominski, and today I'm sitting down with Stephen Marx, an agent here at REMAX Ace Realty. We're going to be talking a little bit about first-time homebuyers and what the market in 2023 looks like for first-time homebuyers. So, Stephen, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Sean.
Yeah, so real quick, why don't you just tell me a little bit about yourself?
So I am 21 years old. I'm born and raised in Chester County, Pennsylvania. Been kind of surrounded by real estate my whole life. My dad has a couple rental properties. I kind of help him. Mm-hmm. He self-manages, so I grew up kind of helping him manage the properties and everything else like that. So I kind of have always been surrounded by real estate. And, you know, when I decided to make the leap into it, it was definitely an industry that I was more familiar with than not.
Yeah.
So
now you're from here, right? You're from Downingtown.
Yeah, Downingtown, born and raised.
Okay, great. So you've lived here pretty much your whole life then.
Yes. Yeah.
So you've probably seen it go through some changes over the last couple of years.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've noticed. Just between like Exton and Downingtown alone, I mean, the amount of more real estate opportunities that got kind of grown up here.
Yeah,
is insane. I mean, I think we're gonna see some more new construction happen here. Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. So I probably told you I grew up in Westchester, mm-hmm. and I remember even out of college, Downingtown was like this. Like I barely knew where it was. Like it was this like little like rural boondock place. Like I'm like, I think they have like a hotel with a guy's face on it, and I know they just built like a big shopping center. I don't think I quite got the. I don't think I remember. I was around for the drive. There used to be like a drive-in movie theater, like way back in the day. But I do remember there was a Downingtown Farmers Market. Probably a little bit before your time, though.
Yeah, that's a little bit before my time. I mean, I remember growing up, my dad telling me stories because he's from Pottsville, Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay.
Home of Yingling.
Yep.
And they moved here in '62, and so they've kind of seen like 113 used to be a 2-lane gravel road, different things like that. It's crazy to think about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and honestly, it's like when I moved to Downingtown years ago, it was one of those things where people were sleeping on it a little bit. It was more desirable than Coatesville, but still people wanted to be in Westchester. It was like they were settling for Downingtown. As the years gone on, I really feel like now people are like, we want to be in Downingtown. Like they're not. It's from just an anecdotal desirability standpoint, Westchester it's nice, but they're not. Sometimes it's not worth like the premium, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it too has to do with like the steps up that the Downingtown Area School District and different parts of the borough have made the past couple of years. I think that, and then as well as taxes, always come into play a little bit. But I think with the STEM Academy being built and 6th grade center and all these different things, happening around here, people kind of realize, hey, that's why we are so attracted to Downingtown to begin with.
Yeah. So what have you been seeing as far as first-time homebuyers? Are they thinking as much school district and like area as much as anyone else? Is that still an issue that they're concerned about? I
think it depends on the age of the first-time homebuyer. So I just sold a home in Exton. I was right in the Seasons neighborhood. And to me, like one of their main concerns was school district. I mean, did they have kids at the time? No, but they were planning on the next couple of years, you know. So that was like something that they kind of like were like, this is going to be our starter home. This is something I want to, raise my kids in. Let's find something that's in the school district that I desire. And they decided on choosing Downingtown. So.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're going towards the appreciation aspect, I mean, I think Downingtown over the past 20 years, we've seen great appreciation in the area.
Yeah.
Like you said, we've kind of seen a swarm of people kind of realize that Downingtown's that little town that they didn't really see before. We're getting more put on the map than we used to be.
Yeah.
Growing up, I grew up in Downingtown, so I knew what Westchester was. I went to Westchester a lot and stuff like that too, but I didn't have that Westchester mindset where I didn't know what Downingtown was.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that because I've probably joked about that Westchester mindset where it's like people are like, oh yeah, isn't that area? Like I think there's like a rock gym out there, and I know Victory's out there. I feel like Victory really put Downingtown on the map for like at least locally. And now we're looking at there's like 2 more craft breweries opening up soon. So
yeah, we have I think it's called Rising Sun. I want to say it is. That they opened up on 100.
Okay,
they're more towards Exton though.
Yeah. No, you're thinking Stolen Sun.
Stolen Sun, yeah.
So you got Stolen Sun in Exton, but then in like right down the street from here, we have Omnis Brewing. I don't know. People just start seeing these signs pop up,
yeah.
And we were kind of like no one. I don't think anyone knows about what the deal is there, and we're still waiting on. There's another one in the borough. They bought the property, and you can see the tanks in the windows right by the library. I don't know if you know which I'm talking about.
I drove past that a couple times, and then there was another one that was opened up like last year more towards Coatesville. Trying to think of what
I
that
heard
was
about that, and I feel bad if they're actually listening to this because we can't remember. I do know Animated Brewery is out there. Is that what it is?
That's what I was thinking of, was Animated Brewery.
Yeah, I think that was a couple years ago, but I've heard good things about it. I've yet to get out there.
Yeah,
so I should just do an episode on just like different like local microbreweries in the area.
Yeah, we should just go around, do like beer reviews.
Yeah, right. So on that, so that's another thing too. So I remember working with a lot of first-time home buyers, and proximity to town, proximity for things to do and entertainment was very high on the list. How do you feel? Like, do you think that's still something that they're considering? That's still a priority when it comes to buying their house?
Yeah, I mean, their sources of travel is like a big thing.
Okay.
Like what's kind of nice about like the area that we're in right now is we're the center of everything. I didn't mean that like that kind of way, but like, 10 minutes you're on the turnpike, 25 minutes you're in King of Prussia, 15 minutes you're in Westchester, you drive another 25 minutes, a different direction, you're in Lancaster County already.
Right.
So you're really close to all those different activities.
And don't forget the train station too.
Yeah, you got the train station, the new one that they're building right now too. And
yeah, and that's the thing. Like with Westchester is, if you wanted to get on the turnpike, you had to go to Downingtown. If you wanted to get on the train, you had to go to Exton or Downingtown. If you wanted to go to Lancaster, you had to like go up like 202 to the bypass through Downingtown. Like it's just like You're kind of right in that sense. Now that I think about it, like there's a lot of stuff. Now the other thing too is like when you live here, it's like you're the center of everything that you do because it's like the center. But it's funny because like in Westchester, you forget how much you have to like go through Exton and Downingtown to get anywhere, unless you're going south to Wilmington or to like Delaware or something like that, which I like to do. But that's a lot of times when I go past Westchester. So. So what do you think are some of the hurdles that first-time home buyers are seeing right now in the market?
I think hurdle-wise that they're kind of seeing is we're in that in-between phase between a high-paced seller's market and a, that's your normal buyer's market. So we're kind of like on that teeter-totter scale right there where a lot of these houses are still coming up and they are still selling in, a week.
Yeah.
But then we are seeing places sit on the market a little longer. So just like a lot of first-time home buyers want that house that's move-in ready. They don't have to paint the walls. They don't do any of that. And I think that's kind of like the hurdle is trying to say like, hey, we can negotiate out on this property. Like negotiations are a thing again. Like we don't necessarily have to waive every inspection anymore. We can get home inspections. That way you can have that better ease of mind. And you might have to do a little bit of work to the property, do a little bit of paint here, maybe change the color of the cabinets, whatever it may be. But I think that's kind of like the hurdle is trying to like find the property because the inventory is still very low in the area. So I think that's kind of the biggest hurdle with not necessarily just first-time home buyers, but every home buyer in the area is just inventory.
Right. So in the last year or so, I mean, we've seen the market. I don't like saying cooling off because that implies that it's going down. And honestly, when I look at the numbers, it's and one number I always look at is how many properties went under contract and how many came or new to the market, like the replacement numbers. And even though the overall volume has gone down over the last couple months, the replacement ratio has kind of stayed the same, which keeps
Yeah.
pricing still where it's at. So price-wise, it's plateaued. Inventory-wise, it's still pretty much this. It's probably lower, even though there's less showings going on. So that's why I tell people like, don't be careful of any predictions in the next couple months for the spring market.
Yeah.
But so I guess the question is are they finding the houses? So are you still noticing like a squeeze on inventory, and have you seen like prices kind of cool off?
Again, it's kind of like it's kind of hard to even say a lot of the times because you are seeing some of these properties, the prices in quote unquote cool off a little bit, but you also still have those houses that are, like showings are 40 plus and they're getting multiple offer situations still. So it's kind of like you have to find that particular property. And so like a lot of the times, like if I have somebody that doesn't want that multiple offer situation, I usually tell them like, hey, let's look at properties that are 14 plus days in the market.
Yeah.
Those ones have a little bit of room for negotiation. The market's kind of telling where that house is priced at or what's going on here. So there's usually some reason why a house sits on the market, whether it be marketing, whether it be it's priced too high, maybe the sellers didn't really even want to sell to begin with, just different things like that that kind of come into play with it. So
in general, what do you think are some of the things that stand out for those homes that do have the 40 plus offers or showings or whatever's going on? In today's market, what have you noticed are some of the things that home buyers are going after? Like what do you think is about that? Why do you think that house is getting so many showings?
So I think it comes down to two kind of main factors. It's priced at a deal and the marketing was there. So the agent did a great job with professional photography. They did a great job on properly posting everything on the MLS. The description was there, everything else like that. So when that person was scrolling through Zillow, something in that picture, something like that caught their eye. It also comes towards, like I said, the price of the home. So, we are seeing some things cool off a little bit. You can't necessarily, everybody wants that multiple offer situation, but they don't realize that if I want that multiple offer situation, I can't price the house at, $390 when in reality the estimate comes back at $370.
Right.
So they have that agent was able to find that magical number to kind of list the property at, to be able to kind of drive those people in. And that's kind of like another thing that comes into play when you're listing your home, is, you have to take account of the people that are looking at houses on Zillow up to the 350 point, but then there's also people that are looking at houses from the 350 to the 400 point. So you want to grab both of those.
Right.
And kind of like you're able to leverage the showings off of that and everything else like that to create that multiple offer situation. Yeah.
And also, do you think that there's buyers who are nervous? They're like, oh, we don't have a chance, so we're not going to go see it, or we're not going to submit an offer or so? Or do you think that they're still pretty like, wow, I have to go see it? Or have you experienced both?
I think it's both. Yeah. And I think that's kind of like where having a good agent comes into play. Because in reality, you might have to put an offer on 3 different homes to get you the one home that you wanted. And I think, that kind of like just comes into play at that situation because, like, to me, I always say that it's always worth taking a look at. Okay, it doesn't matter how many people are looking at it, whatever it may be. Because if it's a home that you guys really like, you're going to figure out a way for us to create a competitive offer to get in that situation of something that, you might want the home. And then that's also when it comes into play of having that proper agent that's going to ask the right questions. Because a lot of the times there can be multiple offers, but they can be multiple bad offers. Right. And you never know.
Yeah.
So
in the buyers that are getting their offers accepted, compared to buyers that are struggling, just in your experience, have you noticed any common mindsets or motivations or like themes between the buyers who do get them accepted and the ones who don't? Is it have anything to do with like who's more motivated, or does it just come down to who is willing to pay the most money?
Again, too, I don't even think it comes down to like I mean, everything comes down to money a lot of the times, but I don't think it really comes down to money too, necessarily the way of presenting the offers. I think a lot of these, we're no longer in a crazy $100,000 over ask offer situation. We're in more of a, hey, like my client, we elected elections, but we're doing for informational purposes only, or we just want to learn certain things about the property and stuff like that. So, we might not be submitting offers anymore where we're offering to pay transfer tax and stuff like that. But I think the ones that we are seeing get accepted are, A, they're more motivated buyers, and B, they're willing to kind of figure out exactly what the seller is looking for. Because everything comes down to everybody wants a clean and easy transaction. And I think that's what really plays the big toll. So, hey, maybe your buyer is willing to pay for the transfer tax. Well, to the seller, that's huge. That's 1%, in this area that they don't have to pay out.
So what's the urgency look like among first-time home buyers? I've noticed in the last couple of years, you had to really want to buy a house in order to get one. Would you say that we're back to this situation where people are scared to keep renting because they're throwing money down the toilet? Or do you think it's more of motivational, I want to invest, this is a financial decision? What are some of the mindsets? Because I think back to 06, the 05, 07, when things were just crazy. And I keep quoting oh, you better buy some real estate. They're not making any more of it, which isn't true. They are developing real estate all the time.
Yeah.
And then after that huge crash in 08, it was everyone had almost market PTSD, and they were scared to do anything for years. And then things kind of steadily came up. And then in the last couple of years, it's been frenzy, a feeding frenzy. And it was crazy. Is there anything you can speak to, what the mindset is behind why people are buying houses, or first-time home buyers? What are they kind of looking for? What are they looking to do? And
from my experience, most of the time, first-time home buyers, they want to either get out of the renting phase because they realize, hey, I could be building positive equity here.
Are they seeing rents go up too?
Yeah, rental prices are up, I think, over 20% since last year almost.
Because that's another thing. If you're renting a house for $1,500 and then you get the lease and it's hey, we're going up to $1,650. All right, and then the next year it's $1,750. You're well, hold on a second. It's kind of I could see that pushing you into the market. And then also it's well, my mortgage might be high, but at least it's going to stay the same. If you're experiencing your rent going up that quickly,
Yeah, and I think a big thing too is because we are seeing a lot more mortgage applications start to come out here now that interest rates are down from the 7s. We're in the 6s again. So we are seeing that a little bit. And I think also just trying to let them know that real estate's a long-term play. You're not going to see the appreciation overnight. You're not going to see, everything happen overnight here. But what you're not doing is you're not paying your landlord's mortgage anymore. You're paying your own mortgage. So I kind of almost like to view it as a long-term savings account almost. When you're paying off your mortgage, you're paying off a place for you to live and not only raise your family, but say 15 years down the road from now, you want to, get a bigger house or, do a cash out refinance or, whatever it is, get a HELOC. It kind of gives you the opportunity of, hey, I have the equity here and I'm able to leverage my money to go towards another route.
Yeah. Are you seeing any trends as far as types of houses that first-time home buyers are looking for? Do they really want a single-family house, or are they okay with more of a flat or townhome?
So I'm seeing a lot of townhomes and single families personally. I think again too that has to just go with the geographical area that I work in. In Chester County we don't really see too many condos or flats and stuff like that in this area. They are around,
right?
But no, I see a lot of them. If they're looking to start a family, a lot of them want townhouses or single families. If they're kind of just looking, move out of your parents' house, figure out on their own, they're okay with a flat. Yeah, they're okay with a condo, but they would prefer a townhouse or prefer a single family.
Yeah, and I kind of refer to There's a couple developments I can think of offhand, and I remember when I was a first-time home buyer a million years ago, it was like Goshen Valley was a big one. I don't know if you're familiar with them in Westchester, but there was like the townhomes, and then there was like, I guess flat, they were like apartments, but they were condos. Yeah. Like on paper, you owned it, but it was clearly at one point an apartment building, and you still feel like you're living in an apartment, even though you own the title towards it like a condo. Yeah,
it's funny that you bring Goshen Valley up. We actually have a rental unit in there.
But, yeah. Dude, it's a great place. And honestly, in hindsight, obviously, I was like, man, I should have bought like 4 of them back in like 2010 when like we were looking at this stuff, and like the stuff I'm like, that's a little overpriced. Now I look at what the prices are, and I was like, shoot.
Yeah, I think they're like the 180 to like low 2 range now and there.
Okay,
if I'm not wrong, but it's definitely. I mean, yeah, again too, like that was like. That's what people were looking for back in the day. I think Chester County, we don't see too much more of the lower $100,000 price points.
Right.
So that's kind of like that one hurdle that we need to kind of overcome and try to figure out what we can do here.
For affordability?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I personally am very passionate about that because, I just think of like the young family. And people think I'm crazy when I say this, but I have worked with couples who are married with kids in their early 20s. And if you have, and you need a little bit more than a 1-2 bedroom apartment flat. That you need a little bit more, little bit of space, but we're getting to the point where it's like, you got to be at like the top of your career just to afford like certain areas.
Yeah.
And we're putting up a lot of barriers to entry. Like there's areas of Downingtown where it's like, if you're, I don't want to give it an age or so, but if you're just starting out in your career, you can't even live in this area. You're barred from anything in this area. And that's just like a weird, kind of unfortunate reality. And for the record, I do believe that I think development, like we need to develop things. We can't stop every single development. I think we need to do it smartly and responsibly.
Yes.
But every time someone wants to build something, social media brings together the mobs of people, and it's just like, I get it. You don't want your value to go down. You don't want more competition when you go to sell, but people do have a right to do with their property. And if there's a demand of buyers coming into an area, we need to provide something for them. I mean, we don't have to, we don't need to, but you can't just be like, hey, I want the traffic count to be exactly the same as the day I moved in here 20 years ago.
Yeah. I'm
trying to be very delicate to everyone involved, but bottom line is we can't do anything about affordability if we're banning development.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's another thing too, is because like a lot of first-time home buyers, like if they can't necessarily afford the Downingtown area, we kind of steer towards almost Phoenixville. And then if they can't really afford Phoenixville, like then we kind of see like the mass wave. I mean, you're heading towards Montgomery County at this point, but we kind of go towards like Royersford, certain areas like that, because again too, they like that you're near the amenities.
Yeah.
Like Phoenixville is still, it's 15 minutes from Downingtown. Phoenixville has its own, like the past couple of years, we've seen them build a ton of restaurants up. We've seen them kind of like redo the main street. And like, I think that's a lot of like the stuff we are seeing here. I think a lot of these first time home buyers, certain ones, like they're not afraid to get into a project a little bit.
Yeah.
And, they're not afraid to, do a renovation, paint the walls and do the stuff that they want to do.
It's funny because when I bought my not when I bought my first house, but let's just say like early on, like YouTube was not nearly what it is today.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny because people joke, but you can literally learn anything off of YouTube. Now you can also learn the wrong way to do it. Yeah. So still do your research. I wonder if that's kind of like fueling people a little bit more to be like, you know what, we can do that. We don't have to hire that out. I would like to try resurfacing a cabinet. See how that goes.
Yeah. I think, I mean, for me personally, like every time I open like TikTok,
yeah,
like you refresh the page, it's like a couple things down, and you're seeing like this young couple that bought a house, like a Victorian or whatever it is, and they're like restoring it. And I think that's super cool because it's like you don't see that a lot. A lot of the times, like, people do want new construction, and it's completely understandable that you want new construction. You know, you want that. You don't want a project. You don't want to work on things. But I think it's also super cool that some people don't mind having a little bit of a project, and they don't mind making, like, because I think with the project too, you get to make the home yours.
Right.
In the end, you know?
It adds to that pride of home ownership too. So, hey, man, thanks. That's super helpful. Thanks for coming out. What's the best way for people to get a hold of you if they have any questions or want to work with you to buy their house?
So definitely either just like reach out to me through social media or just give me a call. My phone number is 484-883-0928. And then I'm pretty much just Stephen Marx on everything out there. So
awesome. Cool, man. Well, thanks a lot.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks for listening. This has been the Chester County Real Estate Podcast, brought to you by REMAX Ace Realty, serving buyers and sellers in the Chester County area. Subscribe for new episodes at acerealtypa.com/podcast. And you can find us on Facebook, YouTube, and wherever podcasts are found.